So I shall be going on to discussing after talking about what our patients want and how best we are going to surgically reach out to them. This is one section which we do need to reflect on, a small number of them, the 6 unhappy premium IOL patient. We need to understand that the way we stand today, this unhappy patient group is actually becoming a rarer group because patients are likely to recommend modern premium IOLs to their friends and family. And it was seen in Concerto study, there were 94% of them who would refer to their friends and 98% in the Harmony study. So what makes for an unhappy patient is maybe if you've had a surgical error, maybe there was something which was bothering him as far as his visual quality. But what becomes important for us that if we know our patient is unhappy, but he is seeing 6/6 well, we need to ferret out that problem and not be defensive or dismissive. Now, what is the problem we need to understand so that we can tackle it? Is it a lack of visual clarity, like some kind of a visual disturbance like a glare, halo, or starburst? That will guide us to how to deal with it. Is it a lack of clarity for distance and near, which will tell us how to treat it? Or is it that the patient was fine the initial period of months, but only recently has a lack of clarity that takes us on to a different track? So what becomes necessary is, besides doing a thorough refraction, we need to address the ocular surface, the tear film, whether the IOL is centered, whether the pupil is all right, whether there's a PCO, is the macula all right? So we need to trace the path entirely. And if after operating on the first eye, we feel that the patient is not too happy, we have to go slow as far as implanting in the other eye. Now, if I take you to some simple examples, like this is a patient who underwent an LRCS with Symphony multifocal. And if you would see that his intermediate vision was clear, but he was not happy with his near vision. So this is something easily treatable, that all we could do is go in for a high-powered, like a Technics +4 in the other eye, and that took care of his vision, and he actually became a very happy patient with the combination of therapy. Now, again, a patient has undergone LRCS with Symphony in his right eye. If you look carefully, he's again happy with his near vision, but has a 0.5 residual for near. That is, he needs that 0.5 add. That's a very simple solution, because all we need to do is just a micro monovision. That is, we could target the left eye with a minus 0.75 diopter. That extra myopia will compensate for that defective near vision, and he would be quite sorted out and a happy patient. Now, this is another patient who underwent one of the Indian multifocals, was not able to get an optimal near vision. As you can see, his distance was all right. But if we actually go ahead and in that kind of a situation, implant a different company lens, and he found that he did well. It was, what was the difference? Was it the IOL design was not optimal, or was it there was some residual refractive error which was not looked into? Again, if you go in for the most optimal lens as this, or you go in for the best of the IOL formulas and the calculation and have had no error, you would get 6/6 vision for distance, intermediate, and near. But what are the burgeoning challenges to visual blur? It could be something sitting on the ocular surface, a pre-existent dry eye disease which was not addressed or which got triggered by cataract surgery. There have been lessons learned from the FACO study, which says that there are 60% of our routine cataract patients actually were asymptomatic, but more than 60% had a tear breakup time of less than 5 seconds. There were 80% of them with corneal staining. There were 18% with a Schirmer score of less than 5, and we could have overlooked all these eyes. There are certain problems which happen with the cataract surgery, like a corneal nerve transection, the prolonged exposure to microscope light, prolonged phaco time, or those post-op eye drops which we might rarely shower on them. All of this would lead on to a local ocular surface inflammation that would trigger a goblet cell loss. And if the patient has a meibomian gland dysfunction, that would get added on and it would perpetuate. So then what happens is that the post-op medications should be lessened. If that is something which is in our hands, we could do that, or we could treat the dry eye status completely, either with medication or a treatment for the MGD with Vilipiflow, reassure the patient and take the measurements and then take them up for the thing. If in our setup, we put them on low strength topical steroid drops, which we rapidly taper off, keep them on some non-steroidal drops, keep them on lubricants. Actually, I keep my patients on lubricants even for a couple of months beyond the surgery. You could do a meibomian gland study, show to them, look at the capillary gland dropouts which are there. Would it just suffice doing a local massage, or would you allow us to go ahead and do a LipiFlow treatment? You can't promise a lifetime of happiness, but definitely it would allow them to get treated better and undergo a good surgery. The visual disturbances could be a dysphotopsia, a decentered IOL, or a higher order aberration. As far as dysphotopsia is concerned, the commonly known ones are the positive and the negative dysphotopsia, or the entoptic phenomenon. Now, what is that? You have removed the large cataractous lens and placed an IOL in the eye. There is a lot of space in the posterior segment, and this kind of extra space can create this peripheral vitreous traction or an arcuate flash or something which are not very significant. The positive dysphotopsia are the glare, the halo, the starbursts are kind of things which patients complain of. The negative ones is a temporal shadow which they see in the nasal side, temporal side. So then, why do we get this dysphotopsia? A very basic explanation. The multifocal IOLs work on the principles of simultaneous vision. That is, when one image is in focus, the other out of focus image is getting suppressed. And it is this suppressed image which is the cause for the halos. Again, we need to know that no visual system is multifocal in any mammal. Rather, what we need to do is to choose an IOL which allows a more physiological division of light. So what is it? Why is it you get positive dysphotopsia? It could be because of these modern lenses with the square-edged IOLs or those high refractive index IOLs which come. And some milder ones could be treated by doing a bilateral implantation, explaining to the patient that neurally, with time, in a tincture of time, you would adapt. And what you'll find, it's the younger patients adapt faster, but majority of the older patients also adapt by period of 3 months to 1 year. While you're so fixed on positive dysphotopsia, you should rule out things like, was there a residual refractive error? Was there an ocular surface disease? Is the IOL centered? Is there a mild PCO which needs to be treated? And very rarely, patient may be so distressed that you should be ready for an IOL exchange. The negative dysphotopsia is seen about from 0 to 15%, a dark shadow in the temporal visual field. And again, the etiology is elusive, but also multifactorial. It could be because of the IOL design or material, again, high refractive index, again, a truncated edge of the design. It could be simple things like the capsular margin coming on the nasal side of the IOL, which could be hinder. There could be light reflecting off the edge and off the IOL surface. It could be because of the distance between the IOL and the iris is small. It could be seen in small eyes with small pupils. It could be seen. What happens exactly is the light which is reflected off the posterior surface of the IOL to that which is reflected off from the edge of the IOL. Difference, because of which there could be this glare. So how could you deal with it? I would need a little extra time. Is either by sulcus, you could place a piggy bag IOL, that might solve it. Or you could bring out the optic of the IOL from the capsular bag out if the rhexis allows, which is a reverse optic capture. Rarely it has been said that a nasal capsulectomy is done or an IOL exchange. IOL decentration, the other issue, you can very well see that the rings are eccentrically seen, and whereas in this left side of the figure, the optic is well centered. So what happens, it's important that the geometric center and the pupillary center and the line of visual axis should all be as close to each other as possible. And it's also very important that the first Purkinje effect on the anterior surface of the cornea to that on the fourth Purkinje reflex should be well aligned. But these kind of problems are not much with the modern IOLs, which have a larger optic. If you look down, the PanOptix has more than 1.1 and Symphony has 1.6. So in these cases, even if your angle alpha is about 0.7 or more, there is not going to be much of a disturbance in these eyes which have a large central optic. Besides, the configuration of the modern multifocal IOLs, which ensures that the haptic configuration is set that it stretches well in the capsular bag, or if you do a femtocataract, if you size your rhexis to the capsular bag, in these kind of situations, you are quite optimal. The reasons why you may have an asymmetric back contracture is if your rex's overlap is not good, if the IOL is not centered the way I said it, so, or if the IOL, there is a bag laxity, the zonules are weak, or a large angle kappa, or a hyperopic patient, these are the situations. Now, this patient had a significant mixed astigmatism kind of situation, but when you looked at him, dilated his pupil, you realized his zonules are weak, and a placement of CTR was all that was needed for him, and he became all right. Now, if you look at this eye trace, there are hardly any aberrations on the cornea, but if you look at the internal optics, you notice that there is a lot of abrasions. So it clearly tells you that the intraocular lens is to blame. And in these kind of patients, if you're not able to address the problem, IOL exchange may be a solution. Sometimes you need to look at the posterior capsule, even a wrinkling of the capsule or a minimal PCO could be having a massive visual impact. So you need to wait for 3 months, of course, and do a cruciate YAG capsulotomy in these patients. But there may be some patients who have a small PC plug and are happy. You don't go bothering them. You just let them be because they are happy. Sometimes if the vision is not improving, you actually need to concentrate on the OCT. It could be a vitreomacular traction, a diabetic macular edema, a CME, or an ERM, or a lamellar macular hole which has got missed out, which needs to be addressed. In other words, you might do a good surgery, you might have chosen the wrong patient. You need to tell your patients that the intraocular lenses come in certain sizes, and we try our best to best fit, but you might need a laser vision correction up in the end. We need to be very responsive and reassure our patients. Believe me, planning for the worst before the surgery would do the best after the surgery. In other words, you need to understand the visual needs. You have a range of IOLs now. You have the low ad, the high ad, we have the extended depth of focus, we have the trifocals. So if you do a careful biometry, choose the right formula, do the right surgery, you are doing fine. And if a patient is 6'6" and is 6'9", he's 6'6" happy, which means he has a residual error, but he's happy. You don't have to go running after him to correct those refractive errors because the final end result is a happy 6'6" patient. So essentially, the essence of my talk is that we need to go in a very methodical, conceptualized approach so that we try to understand what is the problem we are facing and rise to those challenges. Believe me, the multifocals today are so good that these temporary issues could be easily sorted out, and we could have a larger section of our patients wanting a multifocal IOL and a very small section of patients who would actually have a problem in future. Thank you.